Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in to the next Ask Me Anything session where I'm responding to all your questions about the book publishing industry and how to strengthen your own story. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button to join this amazing community of writers and storytellers. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I also want to direct you to a free resource I created specifically for my YouTube viewers. It's in the description below and it's called my free story self-assessment. If you have a work in progress, it's going to help you pinpoint the strengths and weaknesses in your current draft so you can revisit those weaker parts and improve the draft on the next iteration. I know it can be really hard for you to identify those things in your own manuscript without external feedback, so that worksheet is going to give you a better sense of where your story needs to go from here if you're in that phase of the writing process. It's also going to sign you up for my newsletter where I give exclusive tips and insights you won't find anywhere on my channel, so you don't want to miss out on those. We have some great questions on deck today, so let's dive right in. First question here, what are your thoughts on cliffhanger endings in regards to a series? Great question, and in the answer to this, I think it's important to consider how you plan to publish your series. If you are hoping to get a book deal for your series with a traditional publisher, then in the vast majority of cases, your publisher is going to want you to craft the first installment of the series so that it can stand alone. That doesn't mean, however, that everything has to be tied up in a bow at the end, but the main conflict of that particular story should be resolved at the end. So a major cliffhanger should be avoided. The reason for that is the publisher is typically going to publish the first installment in the series first and see how that performs before publishing the next installment that would pick up on the cliffhanger. So if ultimately the book doesn't sell that well and the publisher doesn't want to publish the rest of the series, then it's not good to have a cliffhanger because the reader is never going to get that resolution. So if you're looking for traditional publishing, it is important to frame the first installment, especially as a standalone, as much as possible. Now, if you are self-publishing, your series and the timing of the release is totally under your control. So if you want to create a strong cliffhanger, you can. No one's going to stop you from doing that. The question I would ask yourself is this what readers in this genre want? With self-publishing especially, it's very important to educate yourself on what other authors are doing in that genre because you want to target those same readers and deliver a similar experience for them. So are other authors in your genre creating series with strong cliffhangers? If so, maybe there is an appetite for that and you can capitalize on that and sell books to those same readers. However, if others in the genre are not leaving strong cliffhangers, then maybe there's a reason for that. You also want to think through the question of, are you going to craft a series where a reader can enter at any point and then read the other installments that were earlier? Or do you want to make it so that they have to read the series linearly? There can be pros and cons to both, but again, you should do your research if you are self-publishing into what others are doing in your genre. The other thing to keep in mind with cliffhanger endings is when you intend to publish the next installment and ultimately follow up on that cliffhanger, right? Are you going to make readers wait 2 years before they get that question answered about that character or about that plot development? If so, you might actually end up losing that reader. Because remember, when they read that cliffhanger, they're gonna want to get the answer relatively soon. It's like when we binge a Netflix series and we have to wait a year or more. And sometimes people never return to the series because their interest has fizzled out. So you need to think really strategically about what that cliffhanger is actually doing. Is it bringing more readers to you, or are you going to lose readers because of it? Here's another question. I have a question regarding beta readers. Are there any precautions that need to be taken before handing out one's manuscript to be read? I'm inferring that what you're implying here is a concern about your work maybe being taken or used by the beta reader in some other capacity that you do not allow. And I totally understand this anxiety and this concern. After all, you are handing over your creative work, your baby in some ways, to someone who maybe you've never met in person, someone you don't know personally. So I completely understand where you're coming from with all of that. I think the key here is to make sure that you can trust that beta reader and that it is someone that you feel comfortable engaging in this creative collaboration with. If anyone is giving you sketchy vibes, if you have no sense of their track record for providing feedback or their writing background at all, then you probably shouldn't just give that manuscript to a random person with no sense of who they are on the other side of it, right? In most cases, a beta reading arrangement would be for the beta reader to also give you their manuscript. So it goes both ways. And I think that alleviates a lot of the concern around you sharing your work because they're doing the same thing to you. And this is also how creative writing workshops happen. You provide your work and you get feedback, but they also provide their work and you give them feedback. So it goes both ways. That can relieve a lot of this tension. So if you're not actually in a beta reading arrangement like that, it's important to understand what you're actually asking for and what you're expecting to get in return. Is this a situation where someone is charging you for the beta read? In which case, that's really functioning more like a professional editor providing a manuscript evaluation of some kind. In that case, that person should have clear professional experience. They should have testimonials. They should be able to cite other projects that they've worked on that have gotten published. And so you will establish trust that way. If someone is saying, hey, pay me to beta read your manuscript, and they don't have those types of credentials, I would rethink if that's something you want to engage in. This goes for when you are querying literary agents as well. Don't hand over your manuscript to anyone who seems sketchy or who you can't trust. We have time for one more question today. How do you feel about hybrid authors? This is a question that has been on my mind for a while, and I just wanted to ask someone who has experience in the publishing world your take on this. So on my channel, I've talked quite a bit about hybrid publishing, which is different from the term hybrid authors. So let me clarify this. Hybrid publishing is a term used to categorize publishing companies that do not fit squarely in self-publishing or in traditional publishing. So typically how a hybrid publishing deal works is that you will pay the publisher for some amount of services and the publisher will provide some amount of services to help get your book out in the world. I have a whole video that goes into some dangers and red flags to be aware of with this hybrid publishing space because it unfortunately is where a lot of authors get taken advantage of. So definitely check that out if you are considering a hybrid publishing deal. However, all that being said, that is different from the term hybrid authors. So let me speak to that now. A hybrid author is someone who has self-published books and traditionally published books. And it's actually becoming more and more common. From my perspective and from what I see from other professionals in the industry, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a hybrid author. In fact, in many cases, it makes a lot of monetary sense because we're seeing more and more that the readers who tend to read indie or self-published books are actually looking for something quite different. Often it is something much more specific than readers who are gearing toward traditionally published books, more mainstream books, right? So if an author has a super niche cozy mystery series, for instance, that's doing amazing via self-publishing, they have an audience for that specific cozy mystery, they're ranking high on Amazon, all of that. That can be perfect for self-publishing, and maybe that cozy mystery wouldn't have taken off in the same way via traditional publishing. However, maybe they write another book, a more mainstream thriller, say, and they go traditional for that book, and it does well in the traditional path. There's nothing wrong with publishing different projects in whatever publishing path makes sense. That can actually lead to great profitability for you as the author. I will say that it is more common for an author to have self-published prior to traditionally publishing than traditionally publish and then go to self-publishing, but it does happen both ways. I would say that you just want to be totally upfront with your agent if you have one, or be upfront with any agent who ultimately offers you representation. Explain to them your intentions in potentially being a hybrid author, which projects you intend to traditionally publish, which ones you intend to self-publish, and they will be able to guide you and help you craft a career that makes sense for you. Thanks so much to everyone who submitted a question. If you have something you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comments below and it will be added to my queue. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and grab that free story self-assessment waiting for you in the description below. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.